Hey folks, so today we've got some Slaves to Darkness stuff to talk about. The points have just dropped, and we've got the rules, so all in all, pretty exciting stuff. I'm not going to do like a full book review because that is going to take forever, but I do kind of want to talk about some of the stuff that has changed and I think is quite interesting now. So we can kind of just dive in. I think before you kind of talk about the points cost, it probably makes sense to have a proper look at the like what's actually changed. I brought up this tier list thing, but I think I'm not going to do it just because this book is enormous. And it would take forever to kind of go through all of the units. And also, most of the stuff hasn't changed, really. So I've been messing around with Slaves like a little bit in kind of my spare time. I played Archaeon in some of our recent scrims. I've played a little bit of non-Archaeon stuff on some TTS as well. And then I recently had a game of Legion of the First Prince, which I mentioned in my last video. So, I've been dabbling. I'm something of a Chaos enthusiast myself. So figured I would have kind of a proper look at what's coming in Slaves. So, few things, and I'm sure that, if you play Slaves or you're interested in Slaves, you'll be well aware of this. Old Eye of the Gods is gone. So, Old Eye of the Gods was a great rule, right? This rule was really, really good. It was kind of cool and flavorful and actually felt impactful and like it changed games. We're back to something that's probably going to never matter, ever. So that kind of sucks. This is... I'm also in something that's kind of like a little bit upsetting is I'm pretty sure this is the reason the Demon Prince War Scroll is bad, is because Games Workshop are like, oh, but what if people get a Demon Prince? Yeah, I don't know. It's not good, and like the Demon Prince isn't even like a significant upgrade compared to if you have a dude on like a Karkadrak or whatever, because you're actually trying to get somebody who could like conceivably farm Dark Apotheosis points. It is not like a big upgrade for that guy to turn into a Demon Prince anymore. It's just misery. But one thing that I am really excited about, and I'm just not really going to touch on these more, is the pledge system. Pledges, okay, so Slaves I think has been one of the least interesting and least dynamic armies in the game, by and large. I've quite enjoyed playing Archaeon because it's fun to like, that model is individually quite fun to use, but everything else in Slaves is kind of like various flavors of stodge. If you ever played War Machine, they're like Cador, or if you ever played like Magic the Gathering, they are like traditional green. Like, they're not doing any of that melee graveyard stuff. They're like, my creature is a 2-mana 3/3. It's just, that's Slaves in a nutshell. They're sort of like Stormcast, but without all of the points Stormcast have indexing into shooting put into just more combat stats. Like, they are not traditionally a very flavorful, interesting army on the tabletop. Or, flavorful is wrong, but like, there's not much going on, right? Not very nuanced. This kind of changes that. I think pledges are a really interesting system. So, the way that this basically works is in your hero phase, you get to pledge a unit to a god, and then in like various kind of phases, they'll get effects. So, Khorne is like Khorne and Nurgle are like all the time. Slanesh is in your charge phase. You get the effect, and then Tzeentch is like an activatable ability that you can use in your movement phase. Thank God this is only your movement phase, by the way. Otherwise, this would be nightmarish to play against. And this doesn't look that strong. It's a weird rule, right? So the unit needs to be, because I was kind of messing. Oh, wrong thing. I was kind of messing with it, right? So say you've got a unit here, right? This is like your Chaos Knights, because I think that one of the best uses of this is going to be retreat and charge. And then let's say, just hypothetically, right, we've got our unit of enemy chosen here, and your Chaos Knights at the start of your turn. Don't ask me how the Chaos Knights have survived being combat with 10 chosen. That's not important. But your Chaos Knights would like to charge and do something, and if you're a canny person, and you know that your unit has Mark of Tzeentch and stuff, or Pledge to Tzeentch, you could keep this furthest knight like as far away as possible, basically, from this Chaos unit. So then, if you roll, say, like a 4, then you pick this point here, and then your entire unit has to set up, basically, wholly within 6 of that, and 9 inches away from the Chaos guys, right? So, let's just copy them, because in theory that should be easier. Although TTS is not cooperating. So then it's like this, and you're like, right, okay, so these all have to be wholly within... It's not even quite 10, because it's like 4. Because if it's wholly within 10, it would be a much larger area, and then they have to be wholly within 6 of this. So like here, we've kind of just about managed it. Maybe you would need a guy like this, or something, right? But that is like dangerously close to 9, and this is only 5 dudes. So if you roll like high, obviously it's fine. But I think that perhaps with Zinch you're actually going to need to get into the habit of kind of like stringing your units to do stuff like this, so that you can pick a point really really far away from kind of enemy units, because then you could pick like minimum cases here and then wholly within 6 of this, and you could put your knights like over here, and then they would definitely be away. But like, what happens if you just add like a couple more enemy units? If there's like a dude out here, then you basically just can't use the rule. So my first thought was, oh, this is like incredible anti-tagging tech for your things that care about when they charge, like Chaos Knights and Vanguard and stuff. But I actually think that with the benefit of hindsight, maybe it just isn't actually. I'm not 100% sure about how I feel about this rule. I think it looks incredible on paper, and when you're thinking about it, maybe it is going to be better in practice. Certainly, I think one of the reasons it'll be better in practice is because you can pick it dynamically. Like, if you find a spot for it to be good, you can pick it at the start of your turn and then use it in your movement phase. Your opponent is likely not going to have any meaningful way to interact with it. It effectively kind of gives you something like a retreat and charge. Although, obviously you can't move after doing it, so you would be kind of reliant on demonic speed, but you can pick this after you roll demonic speed, so you can like try and cast demonic speed on your unit and so on. But then you run into this kind of thing of like, well, I could try and cast demonic speed and then hope that this unit gets pledged to Zinch and gets far enough away that they can actually teleport out of combat. But if they then don't roll it, I'm not actually 100% sure, I'll need to look that up, is if you roll, see if your unit is something like this or whatever, or let's put them in a single rank like that, and you only roll like a 2, and you have to put the whole unit wholly within 6 of this point, does your unit just explode? Can you opt not to do it? I actually don't know. Like, if it's at the point that you've already rolled the dice, are you allowed to back out? Because the roll 2d6 is in the kind of effect resolution, so I don't actually know how that works. Again, I'll need to check, but yeah. So my I keep opening OBS. My concern with this rule is that it seems really good, but actually maybe that needs to be like wholly within 9 of a point or something, because it's just a bit, it seems really awkward to play with, especially with a kind of like, say if you want to do it with a unit of 10 Chaos Knights, because you want the Zinch banner on them, which we'll get to. Your unit of 10 Chaos Knights, fitting them wholly within 6 of any point is actually kind of like, well, they basically just need to be in a big ball, they take up a lot of space. You are probably, I mean, even here, how actually far is that from, like, say, here to here? That's more than 6 inches, right? So you need to be in effectively more than 2 ranks, if that makes sense. You'll need to be something more kind of like this or something, maybe, to fit wholly within 6 of like a point kind of here, if you're trying to get away from these chosen. If the point is kind of it's going to make me measure, like, if the point's like in here, you can kind of see what I'm saying, right? Like, these bases are big, and then it's like, okay, so maybe you can use it on something like Chosen that have smaller bases. Like, if we pretend the Chosen are the ones kind of teleporting away, but then why do you want to do that with your Chosen? Surely you would rather just have Nurgle or Khorne, or you've already taken the Slanesh pledge. So I'm not 100% sure on the Zinch one. I think I thought it was going to be really good on like screening kind of knights, or like the knights with like a unit of knights maybe with like the 4 at ward banner, so that they're incredibly tanky against guns, but unsure about Zinch. Tricky, but need to see it on the table, I think. Khorne and Nurgle are obviously both good. I played quite a lot of games of the list that's like Archaon and 10 Chosen. It's quite fun. I did quite well on scrims with it against other teams, but one thing that I found is my Chosen were Khorne marked, which definitely mattered, and like, I think in quite a few of my games that I played with that list, I also played it a little one dayer. It definitely mattered that my Chosen were Khorne marked, but there's some games where Khorne mark doesn't get used at all, or if it does get used, it's like ridiculous overkill. And I would absolutely have rather been able to take this Nurgle mark and give them a 6-up ward. Although that is, we'll get to the problems with Nurgle being a 6-up ward in a second. Or the Slanesh mark when I failed the demonic speed on like the go turn. Both are very good. I like that this is in the hero phase, so you can see if you get demonic speed before you have to pledge to Slanesh. That's good. If this had been like you have to pick it in the charge phase or something like that, I'd be really mad. Or no, that would matter. Anyway, so the problem with Nurgle is that the Chaos Sorcerer exists, and I would say that generally my experience of playing with slaves is that you don't really want to invest much into units that aren't Warriors of Chaos keyworded anyway in terms of hammers, and as a result, you have this kind of weird thing of like, oh, I don't know, like, how do I put this? It is not worth the opportunity cost of giving up a mark, or a pledge, excuse me, for a 6-up ward when you probably are going to get a 5-up ward when it matters. I think that the situations in which you get a 5-up ward on like one of your big units and also feel the need to take a 6-up ward, which comes at the exclusion of the other pledges, will be exceedingly rare. Would be my guess. Now, maybe there are some things that aren't Warriors of Chaos keyworded that we're going to see played that don't have access to that ward that would take it. Like maybe if people are Theridin, like Theridins maybe. Well, I think surely with Theridins you're mostly looking at Khorne and Slaanesh. Something like that. Maybe you play Theridins. I'm not sure. I don't really know. I feel like Nurgle has definitely received a big hit. So a 6-up ward, if you're not familiar, is about a 20% survivability increase to a unit, roughly, give or take. The old Nurgle mark was obviously quite a bit more than that, being like maybe 25 to 33% survivability increase, but only if they required wounding you in combat. So against some armies, it was really, really powerful, and against other armies, definitely less. So I think the problem with it being a 6-up ward is, like I say, there are other ways to get wards in factions. Some models already have wards and so on. Although, actually, very few models already have wards. But yeah, I'm not so sure about this. I think this gets the Demon Prince specifically to a 5-up ward, which is kind of cool. But also the Demon Prince, yeah, it does. But also the Demon Prince sucks. So, yeah, I'm not so sure about that one. Really, I don't think that's where we're at. And yeah, just it doesn't seem comparable kind of to the other marks. Like the kind of things that you would probably want to take it on, I think the problem is, like, see if you've just got units, or an army that's got, like, I don't know, a big unit of Vanguard and a big unit of Chosen, and your Chosen have started with a banner, so you're not taking a pledge early doors on them, and it's probably not going to be the Nurgle banner, spoiler alert, it's probably going to be the Slaanesh or the Tzeentch or the Khorne banner. Because the Nurgle banner is very specific. So in that kind of instance, it's like, right, my Varangard are probably taking a pledge. They're probably not taking pledge to Nurgle. Either. They're probably, just because of how kind of Varangard are, they're going in and they're taking Khorne. And then it's like, right, okay, so maybe I would take a pledge to Nurgle on like my unit of Chaos Warriors that I just want to stand on a point, but when am I finding the time to do that? Because you only have so much time to take pledges because they are turn locked. And if you play a more kind of MSU style army, like the one that I saw Luke playing, with like 3 smaller units of Chosen, and you've got like your little Sorcerer Lord and like Be'lakor and stuff like that, then I think that also is sort of problematic, because it means that you can only take a pledge on 5 Chosen at a time, which is a bit weird. As opposed to, now I feel like if you take a reinforced unit, that rewards both the banner and the pledge system, because you are pledging more models at once, which admittedly does reduce flexibility, but I also feel like Slaves is an army where like you are really rewarded for maximizing your throughput, because the throughput of this army is insane. It's a lot like OBR in that regard. So yeah, okay, pledges I think really, really good. Really interested to see how these play out. Curious and optimistic about Tzeentch, but I do think it is much harder to play on the table than it kind of looks like it will be, but also it's probably very powerful in the late game. You can do stuff like teleport a wizard out of combat with it and things, so that's neat. And then Slaanesh and Khorne, obviously very powerful. Nurgle, I guess Games Workshop is probably just doing that thing of like, okay, Nurgle was just like omnipresent, so we're going to nerf it a bit. Fair enough. Might still be good on things like Theridins. Might be good if you're playing like multiple big units, or like maybe I don't know. I feel like finding time to use Nurgle is going to be really, really difficult. Maybe it's like maybe if you're playing against an extreme shooting army, and you can take the 6-up ward on your stuff, because you don't need the +1 attack in combat. The 9-inch away stipulation actually reduces your ability to get into combat, and you for some reason don't want the pledge of Slaanesh, like maybe you're already on points or something, then maybe you'll take Nurgle. I think you will still take this. It just to me seems less obviously powerful than pledge to Khorne and pledge to Slaanesh, and doesn't have the kind of niche utility that Pledge to Zinch will have, where it's going to be incredibly clutch sometimes. Basically, these didn't change. God's Wrath Warband is still definitely the best one. You'll maybe play Dark Oath if you're playing some Dark Oath stuff. This lol and this, yeah, it's just you get to chain off of Demon Princes, but again, Demon Princes suck. Radiance of Dark Glory stayed. This is still really powerful. I think definitely the best one. This sucks because Demon Princes suck and Dark Apotheosis sucks. And this is maybe kind of cute, but I think really, if I was playing Slaves, I would be looking at Radiance of Dark Glory. Certainly because, oh wait, is it in my Chrome tab? Yeah, certainly because, where is the big guy? This guy is still quite cheap and pretty reasonable, I think, for a cast. So if you play, say, him and Bellicor, or like him and Abraxia, or whatever, you're getting reasonably good value, I think, out of Radiance of Dark Glory. It's just, this is both hero phases. It's actually quite a good role. It makes that model quite tanky, same with Bellicor. So I'm a big fan of Radiance of Dark Glory. Here, I think Infernal Puppet is probably the best one. This is like a cute rule. I swear that, like, some tournaments you go to have terrain where this would absolutely be relevant, and you'd be able to, like, get obscuring on key models. This, okay, I mean, this used to be so good, but, like, it's just not, you know, like, it's just, why do they have to be in combat with it? Can you make it like 6 inches or something? I don't know. Yeah, so Infernal Puppet, powerful. Here, obviously Demonic Speed is still excellent. The faction has +1 to cast on the terrain feature, which is really nice. You know, being able to cast Strikes Last is good. The fact that both are 7 is a little bit sad, but you do get +1. But it's quite a positionally demanding first +1, and also it's not reliable. And also taking your faction terrain is a bit of a liability in modern day, so we'll kind of see. But at least it's hero phase, so you can roll before you go. And then Ensorcelled Banners I kind of wanted to talk about. So start here. This is obviously a very good effect. No commands when you're in combat with the unit. That was really, really powerful with things like, say, Archai in the last book. You know, really, really strong. That's a good, powerful effect. However, I think that these three, because they let you skip a hero phase effectively, or kind of get like an extra pledge in your army, are what you'll see. So, to that kind of end, I think starting a unit with the Pledge of Slaanesh is obviously very powerful, but there are actually matchups where I think that you might not want to start with Pledge of Slaanesh. Like, if you're playing against an enemy melee army who is faster than you anyway, even if you have units with access to 3d6 charge, that's another thing I should absolutely go back and state, by the way. So this is your charge phase. Pledge of Slaanesh. You do not get 3d6 counter charge. You can still do it with Demonic Speed. It's only, Demonic Speed notably is only turn. I've had some people play that wrong against me before. So you can't cast it and then 3d6, cast it in your turn and 3d6 counter charge in your opponent's turn. But if you do intervene Demonic Speed, then you can go for it. But who is intervening Demonic Speed, trying to roll an 8, not getting it unbound, and then paying a third, or well, paying 3 CP to try and set that up? Probably nobody. So, yeah, I think this is very powerful because, you know, it lets you start with a unit with 3d6 charge. That's strong. It means that, you know, you're getting your 3d6 charge. You could potentially have 2 units with 3d6 charge on turn 1. That might be really, really scary in 1-drop lists with, you know, 2 units of 3d6 charging cavalry, a big unit of 3d6 charging knights, big unit of 3d6 charging Vanguard, potentially another big unit of 3d6 charging Vanguard or something like that. If you have like Pledge, Banner, and Demonic Speed, that's good. This is obviously just good as well. Khorne gives you +1 attack always, and then +1 to wound is definitely strong too. You know, Vanguard being 2s and 2s, very scary. Oh no, wait, sorry, you will never get this on Vanguard. Chosen being 2s and 2s. There we go. Very scary, that's good. This one is interesting. This is also, right, so these two are both niche. In the moment, shooting's really strong, right? Like, there's a lot of powerful shooting armies in the game. Things like, you know, Clan Rats with 18 or 12 Rattling Guns, or Stormcast with, like, 12 Long Strikes, and stuff like that, kind of all can shoot things really, really well. Tzeentch even, you know, like, Horrors do a lot of chip damage, especially through Arcane Suggestion. So I think that the Blasted Standard is good in the meta. It means that your unit's starting with Pledge to Tzeentch, which is probably not ever a pledge that you want on a unit at the start of the game. I think Pledge to Zinch is like very situational, and it's something that you'll be like, oh, this is a good spot for Pledge to Zinch. Let's do that this turn, as opposed to say something like Corn or Slanesh where you'll get much more consistent value. But counterpoint, 4-up ward is insane against guns, right? Like it's a crazy high ward save. If you have this on a big unit of Chosen or whatever, then I think that army might just like that unit might just single-handedly defeat like a lot of shooting armies. So that's really strong, but obviously it means that you're locking yourself out of being able to get Pledge to Corn, Pledge to Slanesh. I don't know. Again, I think we'll need to wait and see. I think the obvious choices are to take one of these two, plus an attack on the charge and 3d6 charge, kind of guaranteed, are very strong, and so is this. And then the Nurgle one, if we're ever in a meta where like, if we were, I don't know, like if the meta was something like Cruel Boys Lumineth, I don't know, maybe like Night Hunt or something, I could see this. But at the moment, I just don't think it's good enough. On top of the Nurgle mark being slightly worse. Although, I mean, it does work on shooting, I don't know. And some other things I wanted to talk about, Archaon definitely got worse with the loss of the Mark of Nurgle. He can't take a pledge. So, no Mark of Nurgle definitely makes him worse. I believe he went down in cost by 20, but like 20 out of 890 is not a big number. So, don't really care too much about that. Then, some other things I wanted to touch on. These guys have like de facto Pledge to Zinch, which is cool. Abraxia lost +1 to wounding against characters and monsters because she's not undivided anymore. And also both her and Archaon lost access to Eye of the Gods, which actually kind of, at least from playing quite a bit of Archaon, that does matter. If you can get like +1 to hit on him can be nice, but healing him D3 is often nice as well, and getting like the extra Remnant Slayer Kings and stuff can matter. So those models definitely got a little bit worse, and I would actually have expected more compensation buffs to them. Abraxia also went down in cost, but I don't think it's quite by enough. However, that being said, these are both excellent models to have in armies that are looking to use Radiance and Dark Glory for the healing 3. I think that, she's basically a Magath Lord, really. Like a Nurgle, those are reasonably good models. And with her healing, 3 every hero phase, or well, on average, like 2 every hero phase. She's quite good, but costs a drop and stuff, and doesn't really have that much synergy. I don't know. I think they're all kind of okay. Varangard are the same. Chosen are the same. Be'lakor, yeah, like these are obviously great models, right? Like I think that Slaves is completely fine. I think the Pledge system is maybe a little bit worse than Marks. It's weird, right? I think it definitely gives you more play in the army, but your ability to just straight up stat check people is worse, because before you could have like an entire Slaves army that just like on turn 1 had Mark of Nurgle. Now Slaves can be a little bit more dynamic with their choices, and they can do different things with the different gods and stuff, and that's good. But you can't stat check people as hard. So I guess makes them a little bit less binary, a little bit less of a hammer. Hate that this is still a 3-up, by the way. Games that you lose because, like, a 5-up ward is a 50% survivability increase on a unit. You need to do 50% more wins to a unit to kill it. The games that you lose because you didn't get your 5-up ward off, like, for the first 2 turns, just feel absolutely atrocious. So I really, really wish that this was just, like, guaranteed. Or even make it cost a command point or something, please God. Just, yeah, really, really irritating. Theoden, they're still, I think, are actually quite kind of sleeper good. There's just a ton of, again, really good at stat checking people. That's powerful. Knights are kind of cute now, 3s and 3s, damage 2 on the charge. Like these kind of used to suck. I think that they're still just a little bit too expensive. If we go here, Chaos Knights didn't go down. Legionnaires at 80 though, which is kind of cute. I don't think it's ever going to matter, because I think that if you played this unit, it's probably going to be Legion of the First Prince. Eternus went down though, and I think that he's already quite a good model. He's actually, I don't hate Eternus. If you're playing Be'lakor, I think he's a reasonable bodyguard, or he can run off and go do stuff depending on the kind of matchup that you're in. So don't hate that guy. What was the other thing I wanted to look at? There was something. It was the MVB. So these things start with pledges. And I think that this is quite cute, but I don't know. I feel like, okay, so on the God Summoner, being able to teleport him out of combat is cool, or kind of teleport him around is maybe cool. Um, I find it very difficult to imagine. I mean, I guess it's like a lore thing, right? But I, d- I can't imagine the world where you would want to teleport this thing. Maybe if it like gets it on a point is the only thing I could think of. But I feel like it's going to be so rare that you'll care about teleporting this. Maybe it'll just save it D3 mortals. But again, I actually think that this is like a sleeper, really good model. It heals D3 in every hero phase, and then it also effectively heals D3 every hero phase from Radiance and Dark Glory too, which means that you get um, it means that you get effectively 4 wounds back every hero phase, which is strong. It means that if your opponent doesn't kill it in one go, then it's pretty good. The other thing I kind of wanted to touch on is this is a pledge to each wizard, which that is so annoying. Like that's so annoying because you are absolutely not pledging your wizard to Zinch on turn 1. You have better shit to be doing with your pledges in the early game, right? So why do this? Please just like make it 2. It's god, yeah. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's irritating. I still think it's a reasonably good model just because of how durable it is, but it is irritating that you are probably not getting 2 dice pick 1 for the first like few turns of the game, unless you think your game plan is going to be really, really passive, or your opponent like forces you to go first and you want to take a really passive turn and don't want to commit to a mark on your bigger units or something like that. But I feel like even then, just taking like 3d6 charge on a unit that you're moving into a kind of safe forest or something is going to be better than accessing 2 dice pick 1 on your Mutalisk Vortex Beast. It's just I don't know, it's just an annoying change that they made. But yeah, so I think Slaves looking more interesting, less stat checky, which I like, but I think it might make them worse. Really, really interested to see what some people do with this book. I do think that, unfortunately, we're still going to be seeing largely Warriors of Chaos units, so that being like Knights, Fire and Guard Chosen, and Warriors, with Be'lakor Sorcerers, etc. I think Archeon, we probably will see less. His loss of pledges kind of affects him quite a lot. And I think we'll see some Legion of the First Ins popping up as well, so hopefully you've enjoyed listening to this. I think it's a cool time to be Slaves players. Definitely going to be doing some experiments with this book myself. Keen to kind of see what other people cook up. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.